G'day there, you're watching the Aussie BIM Guru, and today we're going to be running through a Dynamo tutorial for Revit, and we're looking today at how to delete Revit views and sheets using Dynamo. So I'm going to be running this as part of my presentation in the Dynamo Sydney user group as well. By the time this is uploaded I would have already conducted it, but if you ever want to come along, if you're in Sydney, feel free to. I will be presenting occasionally and so will other people. We meet about once every 2 months and you can find us on Meetup. So why are we deleting views and sheets, you ask? Because I guess they're the thing that our model's really holding on to. Why would we ever get rid of them? We want to do it when we exchange models. So from my experience, we'll usually be removing a fair amount of our views and sheets every time we prepare our model for exchange to consultants or other architects in JVs, for example. So there's a few reasons we do this. One of them, which isn't really my favorite reason, is to protect our Revit content. A lot of companies won't share a lot of their content, and obviously if you can delete your views and your sheets, you can get rid of a lot of your intellectual property, essentially, when you share a file in source format. It also prevents people from taking your drawings and making small changes to them and reprinting them, because that might look like you've done the drawing, and I think a lot of countries are not actually allowed to give people the source drawings anyway. On top of that, it reduces the model size significantly, which is a really big positive, because without the views and the sheets, you can reduce a model size by up to half from my experience. And it's also much easier for other consultants to find linked views. So when you have a lot of views in a model and you're not naming them very well, it can be very hard to find a view that should be linked to. Whereas if you strip out all your views except the ones that you want them to use, it's really easy for a consultant to understand which ones they should be using. So we're going to be using some parameters in order to identify the sets of views and sheets to delete from our model. So we're going to be sorting our browser based on these parameters. So in this case, I've just set up 3 parameters and I'm using 2. The first is sort of like my view or my sheet set, and the one after that is like the sub-series of that set. So essentially we're going to be hunting down those parameters, but I want to build the script to be flexible, so we pick the parameters we want to use, and then we pick the values that we want to delete in order to make it really flexible. So in order to do that, we're going to take advantage of a custom package called data shapes. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I use this quite a lot in my scripts. Today I'm actually going to show the full setup for data shapes. Sometimes I don't show the full setup because occasionally it can take a while, but I think this is a great script to demonstrate how data shapes works as well. So we're going to be using Dynamo 2.0.3 today. I think this script should work in pretty much any version of Dynamo, as long as you follow the same logic. There might be a little bit of list management change in version 1 potentially. But without further ado, let's actually get started. So essentially in my Revit model, as I said, I've basically been sorting all my views and sheets using parameters. So I'm basically using these parameters here in order to arrange my sheets and views. So in browser organization, I've set up a custom sorting mechanism, and under grouping and sorting, I'm just sorting by those 2 parameters. Same for my sheets as well. I've got a video on my channel that deals with project browser management. It's actually the second video I uploaded. Worth a look if you're interested in finding out more about that. But anyway, let's find out how to actually delete these sheet sets, because when I send this model to my consultants, all I want to keep is my linked views in my views, and I want to delete all my sheets. So I have like some DA views, some development application views, some design development sheet sets, and some sketches. So my consultants don't need those. So we're going to get rid of all of those. And we could just make a script that gets rid of all sheets and all views, but it may not always be suitable. I like people to think a bit more about what they're doing. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to get to all the possible parameters of views and sheets in our model. So what we're going to do is we're first going to get our sheets, but what we're going to do is we're going to get all the view types in our model. So we're going to get a view types node, and we're going to get the floor plan view type. The reason I'm doing this is because floor plans contain most of the relevant parameters that we're going to need in order to filter out all our views. So what I'm going to do then is just get all my floor plans, so get them by type, and then I'm basically going to just get the first one of that list. I'm also going to get one of my sheets as well. So I'm going to set up just a little get item at index syntax there. So the square brackets say for list X, get item at index 0. What we're going to do then is just get our sheets. This one's a bit easier. We just get the category name of sheets. We get a category by name node, and then we get all elements of category. And sheets pretty much will always have the exact same properties. So we're pretty safe to take our first sheet and assume that we'll get all our relevant parameter names from this. Okay, so what we're going to do then is we're going to get all the parameters of those two elements. So we're going to use the element parameters node, and we're going to basically just get our view parameters and our sheet parameters as well. And then we're going to get the name of those parameters using parameter.name. Okay, so essentially what we should end up with is a list of parameters for both our views and our sheets. You can see we have the names of all the possible parameters for our sheets, and right at the top is our sorting parameters, which we're going to hunt for. But you can filter by a lot of things: the annotation crop settings, family and type, so many options. So yeah, pretty handy. And I guess if you really wanted to, you could just run through a unique items node, because you'll notice you get a lot of redundancy in the name of some of these parameters, such as family and type times 3. So what you could do is just run through a list unique items, and all it will do is give you one of each of those items, so it culls all the duplicates. So now you should only get one family and type, ideally. There we go. Cool. So what we're going to do then is we're actually just going to create our first user interface. So we're going to make a multiple input ++ UI for data shapes. And we're just going to path to a logo. In this case, I'm just going to path to the Aussie BIM Guru logo. You can pick one of yours if you like, and we'll feed that into our logo field. Okay, so on top of that, we're just going to get a code block. And this first part is just going to say, select the filter parameters, because this is where the user will pick the parameters they're going to filter by. Then we're going to say there's a run button called next step, one called cancel, and that's just so the user knows this isn't the last thing they'll be doing in the script. And then we'll just make some numbers for the size of our interface. We'll just do 500 by 500. All right, so we've got our description, button text, we got cancel button text, and then 5 by 5. Okay, so now we need to get our inputs to feed into our user interface. We'll also get a toggle as well, and we'll set that to true, just to run our user interface when we're ready. Okay, so we need to collect two drop-down lists. So we're going to get a UI drop-down data button for both of these. And what we're going to do is we're just going to feed in our parameter name for our keys and our values. And we're going to get two of those, but we're going to feed this one in differently. Okay, so we have our view parameters and our sheet parameters as UI buttons. But now we need to just give those buttons names. So we'll call the first one view parameter and sheet parameter. And I'll run the UI after I finish building these buttons. The default index will be the first one, and we do want to sort them alphabetically. So view parameter and sheet parameter, default index of 0, and we will sort them. And then all you need to do is just do list create and put all your inputs together. And then we feed them into the inputs node of our UI. Okay, so at this point, if I run this script, we should get something that looks a little bit like this. So what parameter are we filtering by? And this is where the user can pick any one of those parameters that we've just fed in. So let's say we want to do sort level 1 and sort level 1. And we go next step. And the way that this node works is it pushes through what we picked. So that's great. So we can basically take this forward to the next step of our script, which is where we need to get all the values that those parameters can contain. So at this point, we're going to get all the views and all the sheets in our project. So we'll go back and grab this node here, or this set of nodes, and we're going to set up one to get all sheets and one to get all views. So we'll just replace sheets with views. This will get all our sheets and all our views. Okay, and then we need to get all the parameters. So the first thing we need to do is we need to manage out a couple of things. So I'm just going to freeze this list, and we're just going to need to get a object is null, because some of the views in our project will report as a null. I'm not sure what causes this, but there's always a couple. See index 18 and index 23. They're giving me a null, so we need to manage them out because they have no parameters that we can deal with. So we're going to use a filter by Boolean mask. And we're going to filter those views by the mask. We're going to take our out list, and we're going to say we want to get the parameter name value, because we're going to feed in that parameter that we've just picked. So we're going to get parameter value by name. So of this, we want to check all our possible parameters. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in a dummy for what we're going to sort by for now. But this is what our UI is essentially going to push through. So what we can do now is just pretend that our UIs went to the next step. I'll just check my parameter name because I think it's actually different. It's ABG sort level 1. But what we'll do at the end is we'll go and get the UI to do this instead. Okay, and there you go. And now you can see all the possible values for these. So what we want to do is just do that. And then we want to get our unique items. So we want to get only one of those for each possible parameter. Okay. And that should just give us a smaller list. But you can see we have one that is blank. We don't want that one. So we're going to check if any of these equal blank. So we're going to say, does this equal just nothing? And we should get a true hit on that one that is blank. So we're basically just going to filter that out using a bool mask as well, just to get rid of it. And then our out list should essentially represent what we want to carry forward. And we're basically just going to do the same thing for our sheets. So we'll take another one of these and we'll just keep this connected up here. But we're going to take all of our sheets, get their parameters, get the unique ones, and replace the empty hit. So we end up with just the possible sheet values as well. Okay, great. So what we need to do is actually carry this forward to another user interface. So the great thing about data shapes is you can sequence a lot of stops and starts in your script. So I'll show you how that works when I set up my next UI, because essentially we're going to make some list views now. So we're going to make 2 buttons called a list view, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. It's basically just a giant list of tick boxes, because we want to pick potentially multiple parameter outcomes. Okay, so we're going to get 2 list views, and our keys and our values will be the same thing in this case. So we'll just paste this as well, and we'll make this our out. And likewise, we want to make some names for these buttons. So I'll just zoom in here. So this one's going to be called view parameter equals, because this is where the user is going to pick what their view parameter is, and also their sheet parameter. Okay. So we've got 2 names. After that, we need to just set a height for each of these. So we're going to make them 200 high. And we're just going to add a false and a true Boolean to feed into a couple of options here. All right. So what we're going to do is just feed in the name of this button up here, the name of this button down here. And then we're going to make our size, our height 200 for both. And then we don't really want to do many of these things. We don't want to highlight and view or show element count. We do want to sort, but we don't want to show ID. Okay, so pretty much all of those are false except for sort. So I'll just quickly feed those in as well. So we do want to sort optional. Okay, so we have our 2 buttons. Likewise, we're going to get another UI. So what I'm just going to do is go back here, and I'm going to grab this UI because we're going to replicate another one that's almost the same, but not quite. So we're going to collect these 2 buttons. And this UI we will call select what to delete. Because we're essentially picking our parameters for the sheets that and views that we're going to delete now. And again, now we can let the user know they're going to delete something. So we'll call this run button delete, just so they're aware of what's happening. And we'll do the same sized UI again. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is unfreeze this, and then I'm going to unfreeze my first UI as well. And I'm just going to feed this back into my user inputs instead. But what I need to do is I need to get the index at index 0, because that's my sheet parameter. And I need to get the index from the same list at index 1 instead, because that's my view parameter. Okay, so I'm going to feed this forward here, and then index 1, which is the sheet parameter, I'll feed here instead. And I'll just keep that there in case we want to reconnect back to a manual setting. But otherwise, we should expect a 2-stage user interface. So I'm just going to refresh the script so that it loses all the values that it had before. So if I run this, the first thing we'll do is pick parameters. So we'll just say sort level 1 and sort level 1. We'll go next step, and you'll see that now it's actually changed. So now we're looking at what we want to delete instead. So now we can pick a couple of these options. See how it's filtered the parameters based on what we picked? So we're saying we only want to, let's say we just want to get rid of sketches and DD, and we want to get rid of sheets and working. So we'll just go delete. And what that does at this point is that feeds through those options as two sublists. So now we need to find which of our sheets and views at that parameter match that particular value and then delete them. So we're almost at the end of our script at this point. Okay, so the last bit is not too difficult. So again, we're going to get our views and our sheets. You could feed these nodes all the way through, but for cleanliness, I'll just get them here because they're not the slowest. They're not very slow nodes to run. Okay, I'll get my views, and I'm just going to get the null capture again. So I'm just going to catch all the ones that are null, the same way that I did before. And I'm also going to get a get parameter by name. And I'm just going to pull these 3 nodes forward as well as a copy. So we're going to say, is this null? If so, filter it out. And then we're going to get the parameter of that element. So the parameter names that we're going to feed through as a sublist. So we're going to get the items at index 0 again, and the items at index 1. We'll take our inputs. So the items at index 0 will feed through here. Now keep in mind, this could be multiple parameters. We're not just feeding through one parameter anymore. So we will get multiple outcomes for this result now. Likewise for sheets as well. We're just going to do the same for our sheets. We'll just copy this set of nodes here as well and just do the same thing. I don't believe we have to worry about null sheets, but I'll just connect it through in the same way for now. But I don't think you have to do that. Okay, and we'll feed this through. So we should get a list of multiple parameters at this point because we fed through a couple of options here. So we're getting, actually, we don't want to do that. We want to go back and get our parameter names from here. So way back at the end of our first interface. And then we want to get our parameter name from the other one as well, actually. And what we're doing is checking against all the outcomes that came from that. Okay. So we'll go back and, which one is it? Here it is. And we'll get that. All right, so what that should do is pull the parameter values out of all the sheets. But now we're going to check if those values are contained within a list. So I'm just going to run that at this point so you can see the outcome. And you'll see we have a big list of items. So now we need to just see if these lists match any of these. So we can see that some of these will, some of these won't. Okay, so what we need to do is use a list contains node. And we need to determine if they are contained within. So the list is these parameters, and we need to see if it contains these respective items one at a time. So we need to work at level 1 in this case. So we're going to run this at level 1 of our list. So if I run that, I should get a list of trues and falses that will tell me if this sublist back here contains those parameter values. So at this point, we have a way to filter out our views and our sheets which contain particular values. So likewise, I'll just connect one of these here. And at this point, we can run a filter by Boolean mask. And we can filter out our sheets. So we can say that our list is our sheets. And this is our mask. And what it should do is find all the sheets that match those criteria. And then filter out all the ones that don't. Likewise, we're going to do the same for our views. So we're going to take all of our views that weren't null, and we're going to mask them the same way. So at this point, we should get a set of views and a set of sheets which will be deleted by the script. And the others will be left intact because their parameters don't match this criteria. So at this point, we're just going to merge those together into one list so that we can delete them together. And I'm just going to run my in list, from both of those. But what I'm going to do also is I'm going to count. So I want to count how many views and how many sheets I'm deleting, because I'm going to bring up a reports window at the end as well, just to tell the user what has happened. Okay, so we're going to flatten our list and our sheet view, and I'll show you what we get. This is what we're going to delete. So we should get a big list of all the floor plans and all the sheets we want to get rid of. At this point, we need to delete these elements. So I believe we might need a custom node for that. So there's a lot of different nodes that have deletes, but my favorite is from Archilab. So I highly recommend the element delete node from Archilab. So I'm just going to freeze this for now, because I don't want to delete these just yet until I demonstrate the final script. But what I am going to do is I'm going to proceed forward with just generating a results window to see how many views and sheets are going to be deleted. So I'm just going to get a pass-through node at this point. So the syntax for pass-through is quite easy. You just do a square bracket and you write pass-through and then wait for, close your square bracket and then call out for an index of 0. And essentially the way this node works is it says, do this, but not until something else has happened. So send through my count, but wait until it's been deleted. And I'm also going to do one here as well. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till my sheets are deleted, and then I'm going to pass through the count. And essentially your script will be held up until this happens. So we want to wait until things get deleted until the message comes up. So we're going to get a string from object, and we're going to convert these into text. So essentially we can't actually see this happen yet, but what I might do is I might just bypass this pass-through for now, and then we'll go and set up the pass-through after, because we're not deleting yet. Because essentially we'll get two numbers here. We'll get a number for the number of views and a number for the number of sheets that we're deleting. And what we want to do is generate some text notes. So we're going to get UI text note, because we're just generating some messages essentially for our user to see. So we'll have one text note here, and we'll just call this views deleted. And then we'll also have one for sheets. And as you can guess, we're going to call that sheets deleted. Okay. So a big portion of the script is actually user interface management. And then we're just going to put our inputs together, same way as before, because we're just building our final user interface. Okay, so we'll put those together, and I'll just go and take a copy of my last UI, and I'll bring it forward. Because this UI is not going to give the user any options, it's just telling them something. So we'll take our inputs, and we'll just call this, let's call this results, and we'll call the run button done, and we can give them a cancel button, but it doesn't really matter, it won't have any impact. What I might do is just go back and resize my second UI before I forget, because it was a little bit low. I might just make its height 1000 instead, because it was very condensed and cramped, and I didn't really like that. Okay, but this one can be quite small. So essentially that's our UI and our script built. So if I run this right now, you'll see the UI window will look a little bit like that. It'll just tell you how many views and sheets were deleted, and you say done. Now you can see the UI is trying to start again because it's refreshed. We're just going to go cancel and cancel. And what we'll do now is we'll fix up our script. So we'll unfreeze our delete elements node, and we'll feed in our pass-throughs instead. So essentially at this point we have a functional script. So I'm going to run it through Dynamo Player instead, just to show, I guess, the way that I usually use this script. So I'm just going to go to my Manage tab, Dynamo Player, and we'll open up the script's location, which, like any good user, is on my desktop. Definitely don't recommend working from your desktop. Maybe only if you're doing a demonstration video. Okay. Sometimes Dynamo Player takes a little while to pop up. Cool. So we're going to search for our folder. Okay, so we're going to run our demo script. So all you have to do is just go play, and it should trigger your user interface to begin once the script actually starts to run. Because really we're just putting some commands into the user interface, and that's really how the script works. But it's processing a lot of parameters in the background, so it's doing all the hard work behind the interface. Okay, there we go. So we can pick our parameters we want to delete, For fun, let's actually just pick sort level 2 for sheets, just for shits and giggles. So we'll go next step, and now you can see we've got the options of what it knows is available in sheet set 2. Sheet set 2 is an interesting parameter because it's actually just my sheet set names, and it's ignoring the phase, but I can still delete all of these because sheet set 2 and 1 is common to the 2 phases of design in sort 1. I'll delete everything except for linked views. So I'll go delete, and you can see that we've deleted 19 views and 50 sheets. And we go done. It's interesting that it didn't delete the ground floor plan because this is the last floor plan that was open. So I don't think Revit could actually comprehend deleting this view. So you may need to go to a view that isn't going to be deleted. Otherwise, Revit won't be happy and it will probably try to hold on to that view. Because Revit always needs at least one view or one sheet open. But you can see all my sheets are gone and now all my linked views are gone. If I was actually, obviously not having the issue of being on a view that couldn't be deleted, I'm pretty sure it should work. So let's just run it again. And we'll do sort level 1, everything except for linked views, all my sheets, delete. And there we go. Now it managed to do it because we were on one of our views we weren't deleting. So you can see how quick that script is to run. And it works in models of a lot of sizes, and it's really quick and easy for a user to understand how it works. So really handy for an Exchange preparation. So hopefully that helps give you a useful tool for your toolbox. So thanks for watching today. If you've got any queries or feedback, feel free to leave it down below. And if you're not already following or subscribing, feel free to do so. You might have noticed I've got a new video resolution now. I'm just trying out the optimal YouTube resolution. If it's too small, please let me know. But if you're finding it better, feel free to let me know as well, because hopefully this is easier to watch on mobile and also on computer in standard monitor size as well. So thanks for watching today, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Take care. Bye.